Hey, what's up? This is Seth Green, and you are listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark, and I am so hot, I would desperately like a glass of water. Please, please, give me some water.
This is Cindy Preston, and I'm with Mark on Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Melissa Peterman from CMT's The Singing Bee and the television show Reba. And I have to tell you, I just have to get it off my chest, I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi there. This is Faith Roscoe from General Hospital. You're listening to Mark on Somewhere in Vegas. And you better watch out. We know how to find you if you're not listening.
Hi, this is Shannon Egan from Whip It, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hey, this is Lee Allen Baker with Somewhere in Vegas, talking with Mark with a Q.
This is Courtney Cronin. You're listening to Somewhere in Vegas with your host, Mark, and I would make sure to listen every week because he's a sure bet.
Hey, this is the Money Man, Eddie Money. I got 2 tickets to Paradise, and it's, you know what? It's Somewhere in Vegas. And what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Hi, this is Crystal Gale, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Terry Nunn from Berlin, and you're listening to Mark Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Miracle Laurie from Joss Whedon's Dollhouse. There are 3 flowers in a vase, and I'm listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Erin Hill, and you are listening to Mark on Blog Talk Radio and Somewhere in Vegas. Mark is a great guy.
Hi, this is Sean Pulaski. I'm still trying to figure out Mark Pico's sexuality, but I know you're listening to Somewhere Live in Vegas.
Here you go, Mark. I'm sorry. I thought you were she. I'm sorry. Get out of the tent. Let's get out of here.
Hey, this is Lance and Anna from Free Radio. And Anna?
And you're listening to Somewhere in Vegas.
Yes.
My favorite.
You know, that's usually what happens with me. I go to Vegas and I get lost, and so I end up somewhere in Vegas.
Somewhere in Vegas.
But I just don't know where it is.
Not quite sure.
Yeah, word.
Get ready. It's going to be hot. It's in Vegas. Check out Mark. Be there or be square.
My guest at this time is a very talented rock musician. His new album is Wonders of the Invisible World. You guys can check that out on iTunes as well as anywhere you can get your music right now. Darren Michael Boyd is on with us right now. How you doing, Darren?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Great. I mean, obviously, you've really used your time during kind of isolation and COVID to really kind of start working on this album as well. Was that something that you were planning on doing?
I was doing it anyway, for sure. But, you know, when it came up, it was like there was some extra time. But it was also, I don't know how to explain it. It was a little bit hard to get motivated because, you know, everything was on pause, right? So it was like, what's even going to happen? Is this going to get released? Is anybody going to care? Because when you think back, even just 5-6 months ago, it was like everything, the world was kind of frozen, right? And so sometimes it's hard to get motivated, but then when I put that out of my head and just worked on the music, then it just, you know, it's like always, it was a good use of time.
Were there some ideas that were going on kind of through your head before you started the album? You know, maybe had a couple of things written down that you were looking forward to kind of getting included on this album, or you may be just working on?
Yeah. I'm looking at the CD right now because I'm like trying to remember, but there were definitely, you know, a few working titles, a few riffs and things like that I just put in my phone or I'd record on my computer and then work on it, fleshing it out later. There was probably 1 or 2 songs that I was trying to work on for my first album that just weren't there yet for whatever reason, that, you know, I finished them later. And so, yeah, there's always something going on. And when the project is done, it kind of overlaps into, you know, keeping going.
Yeah, you probably had a couple ideas that weren't on this album, but, you know, maybe might be on the next album or something, right?
Yeah, probably. Now that you mention it, yeah, there's definitely some ideas. I'm still every day kind of like, this is cool, and I'll write something down. And yeah, and sometimes it's as simple as like a musical idea, like instead of actually anything too concrete, like it's this chord structure or something like that. It's more like I want to do a song that has this kind of drum beat, or something like that. And then later I'll explore that idea, kind of, again, flesh it out.
Yeah, what was it like? I mean, this is your second album, and your first album or whatever, but I'm pretty sure you've been familiar with coming into a studio maybe even before then. Tell me a little bit about your first experiences in the studio and a little bit about, how much you've learned in terms of, your first studio experience until now.
Well, the crazy thing is when I was first working in a studio, I was, a kid really, I don't know, 17 or something. I think recorded my first album, 17, 18, something like that. No, I was younger than that. Yes, 16, 17. And that was very different because, you knew kind of how it went. You knew that, I knew going in, there were layers and that, but I didn't really have the ability to learn how to overdub and add harmonies and stuff like that. So now it's a little bit different because I've been working with my own software, and this album and the last one is completely self-produced. I mixed it, I produced it, I did everything from home, with the exception of the mastering, because that's something that if you're going to invest and you want it to sound good, take it to the next step and get it professionally mastered. That's my advice to anybody who's home recording. And yeah, and I'm pretty excited about the production, even though, if I went into a real expensive studio with a real experienced, proven producer and all that, would it be better? Probably, but it wouldn't be the same product. And I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out, I think.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy just to think about it, because back in the day, you had an A&R guy saying, this is going to be the single for the album, or this is going to be a single for an album, or something like that. It kind of stir that direction. But now, with a lot of self-published musicians like yourself, it's a kind of that situation where you get to select that case. And really, to tell you the truth, I think it's better for the audience, because if you're more passionate about a single coming out or a certain piece coming out, then the fans kind of see that as well. And you kind of know your audience, who they are and all that as well. So it's kind of interesting to be kind of a self-published artist and have that ability as well. How has it been for you to have kind of the audience feedback on your music?
So far, these two albums have been really better than I expected, because it is kind of odd, doing this kind of guitar instrumental stuff, and it's not like real mainstream, right? So I've got a lot of really positive feedback, both from fans and reviewers and critics, and I haven't had a whole lot of hate. Maybe I'm not popular enough yet, but so far it's been really positive. So that's really, really good, really exciting.
There have been several artists that have really made it up to some mainstream success as instrumental artists as well. And, I really do hope that ends up becoming more of a thing nowadays too, because, even the rock genre itself is having a little bit of problems right now in the pop charts and all that as well. And I think we really are looking for a little bit more diversity in terms of where the music kind of lies or whatever. I think, people as old as myself just don't like, I'm not into anything in the past maybe decade, 20 years. I'm still stuck in the 90s. But just to have that kind of sound out there, I think it's absolutely great as well. Are you seeing kind of a hunger for a lot more instrumental rock? And, obviously the fans are really kind of digging what you're doing right now. But kind of what are your thoughts right now on kind of the status of rock and roll? Do we think that we're really going to see more rock artists like yourself out there in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I hope so. And, I think what's happening, a lot of people who say, there's no new good music, it's there. There's tons of it, but it's just a lot of the mainstream stuff. It's cookie cutter, right? It's sort of like, and I mean that in every genre. Metal, and I'm sure people will be angry at me, but when you really think about it, so much of the music sounds like it's just made in a factory. It's all like kind of generic, and that's not an insult to the musicians. That's just the fact that if you look at what we're dealing with our social media and our streaming services, that they're all algorithm based now. And if you don't constantly have something being put out, you're fighting, you're struggling. If you stop, you have to claw your way back up. But it's not like the old days where a band will put out an album, take a break for a few months, a year, maybe 2 years, come back with something great. You don't have that luxury anymore. So the artists that are mainstream and the labels that are putting a pile of money into them, they're going, well, here's our formula, don't screw it up. Can you imagine, I was saying this to somebody yesterday, can you imagine if Stairway to Heaven came out today? People wouldn't listen past the first 30 seconds. They would never even hear that, whether you love the song or not, it's this epic song that stood the test of time, and they wouldn't even listen to it. So with all that said, I think there are definitely fans that, are just want to hear music from people who are making it without any gatekeepers, anything in the way. They're just, people like myself. I mean, not everybody's going to like what I'm doing, but at least, nobody's, breathing down my neck saying you have to do this. Everything is the way I want it. So.
Yeah, I'm kind of flashing back to that scene in Bohemian Rhapsody when they brought Bohemian Rhapsody to the executive, and he was like, this is a long song, and who's going to listen to opera and all this as well. And the funny thing about the scene, spoiler alert, it was Mike Myers as the producer saying this, but it kind of reminded me of what you're kind of talking about, where you got an AR guy saying that this isn't going to work. And I think I said again that freedom is, I think, the thing that's going to kind of alleviate a lot of that, considering a lot of self-published artists and artists that have more control over what their content is as well. I mean, the music business obviously shifted quite a bit once the digital technology was there and people could self-publish. So it's great to be able to see that revolution has kind of had a huge effect on that as well. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about first of all, what was your first guitar? What kind of guitar?
My first guitar was a black Les Paul copy. It was a Hondo, I think. So it was like probably $100 or something like that. But it was it was a Les Paul copy. So I felt comfortable on it right away. And I always say that, like, because when I teach guitar lessons, and kids will often say, not just kids, but anybody wanting their first guitar, and they'll say, well, what should I get? And I always say, well, the first thing is don't go and get your parents or spend $3,000 or something on a guitar. You can do just fine with something under $200. There's some great, as long as it plays, if you're not hurting your fingers and everything, you're fine. And the other thing, and this is a hint that will sound really weird, but color matters. And I mean, everything matters. So in other words, if you're looking at a guitar and it looks beautiful to you, like you're that is amazing, you love the color, you love the shape, everything, well, that's going to make you want to pick it up and play. If you go, oh, that clunky thing, it's embarrassing, I'm going to hide it under the bed or something, that's no fun. You want something that makes you feel like, I can't wait to play that after school or after work or my free time. So yeah, the Hondo was my first one. And then, you know what? My second guitar I have right here, still here. Look at that, BC Rich, bitch. And that's it. That's my second guitar I bought when I was, I think 16. I was working in the mud in pulling trees in the forestry all summer just to pay for that guitar. So it's still with me. The Hondo I don't have anymore though.
Well, how many guitars do you currently have?
Well, there's a good question. I'm not much of a collector, although some people would argue, because I think I have about 16, maybe something like that. I had an inventory because people kept asking me, I need to keep track just so I know, but I'm terrible at remembering. But I use them all. That's the thing. I don't have guitars just to hang on the wall or something. Like they all have